Buenos dias, Gunners Collective TV. Back at it? Well, you already know. Like a motherfucking smack at it. Buenos dias. I'm about to give you guys the history and the myths and the lies and everything that's been told between the Paisas and the Nortenos of Northern California, man. Because there's a lot of people, a lot of that he said, she said. She said that he said. I don't know who said it, man. Someone said it. Fuck it. It comes from somewhere, right? But it's like Bigfoot. It's a myth. It's a legend, right? People need to go find Bigfoot, and they definitely need to come right here and find Gunners Collective TV so I can give you guys the history on, I could say, the discretions and the things that happen, man, the discrepancies between the Paisas and the Nortenos in Northern California, and how there was at one point, man, a little bit of a beef. There was some Nortenos, man, that went a little too hard on the Paisas. And that was the reasoning and the creation of the Upstater movement, even though the Southsiders have always been in Northern California to some effect and to some point, man. This is why, a lot of the Paisas, a lot of the Mexican nationals that came to work with their families decided to stand their ground, plant their flag, and handle their business. So, with all this going on with the INS and the Border Patrol and the ICE, snatching people up, I'm seeing a lot of solidarity. I'm seeing a lot of coming together. I'm seeing a lot of the raza in cities like San Jose, the whole Bay Area, the Central Valley. They're marching together. They're protesting together. They're letting fucking the ICE know, hey, you're not going to just come up in our fucking city, up in our barrios and just snatch people up. Now, is that going to stop ICE? Not necessarily, man. They've decided to pull up to schools. They've decided to pull up to places of work. I mean, anywhere they see a person of pigmentation, a person Latino looking, or someone who looks a little bit suspicious, I guess, they're pulling up. I've seen them pull up in barbershops. They're pulling up in tiendas, which are stores. They're pulling up at car washes, anywhere where they know Mexican nationals will work. I haven't heard quite yet of them pulling up on fields and just snatching people up, but I'm sure that's coming, and that's unfortunate. But I've been seeing a lot of solidarity, especially in the city of San Jose, man. I got homeboys out there in San Jose, so I tap in, and it's up right now. It's really lit, and it's up in San Jose. You got marching, you got protesting, you got lowriders out there blocking entrances to barrios. You got a lot of shit going on in the city of San Jose, man, and I can say I respect it. I respect the fact that, people are against the tearing apart of families. They're against people being bullied and picked on just because of the color of their skin or their nationality, because I don't agree with that. I never have, and I never will, not whatsoever, right? But there was a dark time in Northern California past when Paisas and Chicanos, Norteños, gang members didn't see eye to eye, and that was because the Norteños decided for one reason or another that Paisas just weren't up to par, that they weren't the same as them, that they needed to be eradicated or disrespected at some point. Now, again, this wasn't a Norteño movement that it was told to do this. This was something varying from city to city. People took upon themselves. Like I said, I had homeboys from my neighborhood that did not care for the Paisas. They did not care for Mexicanos for whatever reason. They try to distinguish, and they try to put a big divide and division into the fact that we were Chicanos, we were Mexican Americans, and these vatos from Mexico were clogging up space, right? Kind of familiar to how it sounds right now. But this is what was going on, man. And this is a couple stories about how I had to check a homeboy and even almost got kicked out of my neighborhood because of the defense and the stance that I took against the oppression of the Paisas. True stories, right? Now, don't get it twisted. The Paisas were handling their business too. And a lot of those guys, man, that were getting bullied on or picked on or even ran up on, because not all of them were suckers, not all of them were punks. You had punks from everywhere, right? But a lot of them dudes stood their ground, and eventually what they did was they started to gravitate more towards the upstate movement, which was the Southsider movement, because the Southsiders always claimed to be Mexicanos, a little bit more into the cultura, and that's just the way that went, right? So trip out. So there's a lot of people that talk about how paisas were treated by norteños. Now, don't get it twisted, man. The Mexicano people that come over to work, that come over to provide for their families, there was a narrative there, meaning there was the same old schedule, same old story. You know, we knew in the neighborhood, we knew around the city of Merced how the paisas did it, man. They'd work all week. Then they'd find these little Mexicano stores where they could either use the phone and call back to their familia, or they could send their money out. So a lot of these guys, they all lived in from motel to motel and they followed the fields, or a lot of them lived together in one household, man. And I remember we used to be like, hey, that's where the paisas stay. That's the paisa area. They lived in a lot of camps. You know, there was camps out there in Planada, camps out there in Le Grand, and they were picking. They were doing their thing, but they were being victimized and utilized in certain situations. Everybody knew that they would go to the store on Friday to cash their checks, or everyone knew the club they would go to, you know, on Saturday night or Friday night, and they became victims. They started to be taken advantage of because people figured, hey, they couldn't speak English. They weren't from that area. They weren't from my barrio, so fuck it, right? They got to go. But we were victimizing. I say we because I was part of the Norteño collective, but I wasn't actually doing that. But as part of the collective, we were victimizing our own people. People were derived from, people that looked just like us. But because they weren't born in the United States, it was like a situation where it's like, hey, fuck it, they're less than. And that's a kind of the reason and how it is in Mexico too. If a Chicano goes into Mexico, he's pocho, he's plástico, he's a huevón. He's not that, right? So he's gonna be ridiculed, picked on, and bullied. How do I know? Because I pulled up to Mexico a couple different times, man, and immediately I was ran up upon, and I wasn't dark enough. I didn't speak Spanish good enough. You know, I was looked at like the bottom of some, like the gum on some bottom of someone's shoe, man, which was unfortunate. But it just was what it was. I adapted, and I pulled that thing out, and I said, I'll use it like Pancho Villa. And they said, oh, sí, porque tú es un loco, right? Yeah, that's right. A little too loco, you know what I mean, for the moco. So that's just how that went. I was like, I ain't going out like that. I say, fuck that. But anyways, so with all this shit going on right now, I thought this story would be relevant. You know, I had a particular homeboy that had a distaste or a dislike for paisas. And it's because he was in a certain city, man. He actually went to, and we were young at this time, he went to what was called placement. See, back in the days, there were steps to this shit. Back in the days, you'd go from juvenile hall, you'd catch a little case, they'd send you to placement, which means they placed you in different cities outside of your comfort zone. And they would send a lot of the homies from my neighborhood to like Fresno or San Jose, San Francisco in these placements, which were group homes. They were misbehaved children, people that were, you know, fucking up, and they would try to detour you, take them on little trips, you know, help show them structure, show them male role model figures or female role model figures, because these guys weren't getting the attention they needed at home, and it was leading them down a destructive path. So rather than them go down a destructive path, a lot of the placements that they put people in helped them. But then again, when you get a whole bunch of gang members from a whole bunch of different cities, what do you think is going to happen? Boom, boom, right? It's going to get bad. It's going to get, it's just a situation, man. You're only teaching people how to be better criminals. You know, Valta's got game out there in Soho, like, oh yeah, we do it like that. We steal a car like that. And then you got Valta's and Fresno like, hoo, 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 hoo. So it was a situation in the Valley where guys from the Valley, they were on us, right? It's just how it was. Now, I never got a chance to go to placement. Nuh-uh. I just went all the way around the board, the Monopoly board, didn't collect my 200, and was just like, go straight to fucking youth authority. So I skipped that step, but like I said, it was steps. You go from juvenile hall to placement to fucking the CYA, and then on to jails and prison as soon as you hit 18. Now, I had a homeboy that was in placement. And when he was in placement, they placed him amongst a place that was kind of like because he didn't speak English as well. The cool part about it is he was lightweight paisa, but he didn't think he was, right? He thought because he was from a water and because he hung around with the homeboys and went to school with us, that like that he just all of a sudden wasn't from Michoacan. Like the hats he didn't wear, the Mexico hats, he used to say those were Merced hats. We used to be like, nah, it's Michoacan, motherfucker, right? But whatever. And so he goes to this group home, and there's a lot of paisas there. You know, a lot of Mexican nationals that were fucking up to themselves. These are some pretty tough kids, man. And these kids all leaned to the south side, meaning that they were, a lot of them were upstaters, but we didn't call upstaters back then, but they were southsiders. And they went hard on him in the paint because he was a northerner, right? And he got jumped, and eventually over time his parents found out about it, and they moved him out of that placement. I don't know if he told on, they go, they're fucking beating me out, they're beating me out. No, por qué, right? Or they just got him out of there. But I remember when he got out of placement, man, they thought he was the Don. He thought he was John Gotti. That about the guy with his peacock chest all up, like, yeah, homie, I was in motherfucking placement, homie, right? Like, he said, what, bro? What are you, a placemat? It looks like they stomped on your face. This is how he felt. But this was the beginning of his dislike for any paisa. And so every time we'd be in town or we'd be anywhere, we'd be at the taco trucks or a bar or wherever, and he's seen a paisa. And this happened over years, man. This wasn't just something he did for a little while and then he got out of the rhythm. No, the rhythm of the night, like fucking like one of what are they? The fucking the bars or whoever, whatever their name is, right? You know, he was on it. The DeBarges. Yeah, he was on it. He was definitely someone who just fucking went in on him. And so what he would do is he start beating up paisas, jumping on them, disrespecting them, doing a lot of things, man, that I thought was over the top. So what happened was I disappeared. I ended up going to prison. We got older, and I knew his lifestyle, and he was leading the lifestyle that I was leading. Placement didn't help him. He skipped youth authority. He was in and out of prison himself. And so usually when you go to prison, you get a little structure, you get a little programa, you get laced up, you get glitch, right? So you kind of know what time it is. So this guy, we get out, man. It was one of the homeboys' birthday. I remember we're still functioning, everything. And his familia had come from Mexico to visit. And the whole time, the homie was just talking shit about the homeboy's family. Fucking this and that and disrespect. And you got to understand, man, I did time amongst paisas. I did time with some real righteous dudes from Juarez, from fucking Jalisco, from Guerrero, from Monterrey, from, I don't want to miss anything, Michoacan, Sonora, everywhere, DF. So being around these guys and seeing how they function and knowing they were about the business, man, I didn't have this hatred towards paisas. I had a lot of respect, but I had even more so respect because my grandfather came from Mexico, both of them on both sides, right? And made a better life for themselves. And not only that necessarily, but they did what they had to do. They paid taxes, they bought homes, they paved the way for me, my tios, my primos, to have a better life, right? So I respected that. And I respected Mexicanos because, dealing with Mexicanas, which is my preference when it comes to ladies, even though I'll fuck with a blonde, a brunette, a redhead, a chick with green hair and long nails and a BBL, as long as it doesn't stink, right? A lot of the Mexicanas I messed with, her families were, she was second generation, her family was from Mexico. So I respected the get down. I respected the cultura and always will. And I love, knowing where I come from and how I got here. But the homeboy was talking shit, right? So word got around to the other homeboy, was his family, and he was like, hey, bro, you're going to have to jam. And the homeboy was like, fuck that, you're going to choose these fucking paisas over your family, over your homeboy? And he's like, this is my family, bro. And this is my home. And the dude was being disrespectful. So he's like, fuck all you vatos fucking, you guys wish you were in Mexico. And then the cold part was this motherfucker was from Mexico. Like first generation, like motherfucker, you snuck over, homie. Sabes que, right? So, man, I got tired of it. And I told him, hey, Holmes, why don't you leave that shit alone? Why don't you let that shit go? Why don't you let it go? Let that go, right? I did the West Watson. Come here, essay. Come here, essay. I was on him, right? And we were chunking him, and I got him. Yes, the gun took a W this time. Smacked the shit, right? And I was on him, and I remember every time he came around after that, the homeboys didn't want him around. Not only because he disrespected the homeboy's family and disrespected the homeboy's pad, but more so because his dislike for what he was. People forget where they come from or who they are. And I've never liked that about people. And because it was Mexicanos, that just had a little old safe spot in my heart, right? So that was that. But I've heard different content creators talk about it and of this myth that all Norteños hated paisas and that they treated them differently. And this is the reason why the upstaters were created in defense of the Norteño bullyisms, right? And I could tell you, man, that varied from city to city. The Southsiders were always in Northern California. In fact, one of the oldest barrios in San Jose, Vicky's Town, right, split. There was a gang of vatos that were nada. They were north or south, and they decided some went northerner, some went southerner. Then you had barrios like Horseshoe, which is a very old barrio in San Jose as well, man, but is derived from a barrio in LA, Horseshoe in LA. So that's true stories, man. The North and the South have always been intertwined when it comes to Northern California. As much as Nortenos like to say, nah, Charlie, homie, it ain't like that. Yeah, it is. Puto, stop it. It is like that, right? And you got to understand, a lot of the Paisas, Mexican nationals that were working and were with their family, were getting tired of getting bullied. They were getting tired of getting ran up on or being disrespected or judged based on the fact that they weren't Chicanos or they weren't Norteños. And so they banded together, and a lot of them formed gangs like Mexican Pride, Barrio Mexican Sureños, Mexico Southside, Brown Pride. I remember Brown Pride, man. I disliked Brown Pride. Let me explain it to you. Okay, let me explain it to you. I love Brown Power, Brown Pride, Chicanismo, all that. But barrios that claimed Brown Pride, I always felt they were just trying to play both sides, because I'd see a lot of these Brown Priders, man, and I didn't realize back then that they were just proud to be Mexican. But to me, if you're a fucking gang member, pick a side. There's Crips and Bloods, nothing in between. There's Norteños and Southsiders, nothing in between, except if you're a Bulldog, but that's different, right? My thing was, stop trying to formulate some fucking gang. That's a hide gang. Hide around town gang. Now, I'm not saying all Brown Pride gangs were like that. I'm saying, but a lot of them that I had the chance of running into, they would do that. You'd hit them up. Hey, where you from? Oh, I don't bang, homie. I'm just Brown Pride. But they'd be wearing barrio Brown Pride. Like, you don't bang. You bang that barrio, right? No, but you don't understand. I ain't got no problem with none of you vatos. And then you see a gang of them kicking it with Southsiders, or some of them trying to kick it. We had Brown Pride, Norte, all that. My thing was like this. Hey, this is the thing. You either are or you ain't. That's it. Plain and simple and period. But that's neither here nor there. That was fucking stupid thinking, gangbanging mentality, but it's the truth. That's how I felt. I felt a lot of the Paisas and a lot of Chicanos as well, that didn't want to get gangbanged on or jumped on, but still wanted to be looking the part of something. They would claim Brown Pride, right? And I just never agreed with it, because I felt like they were taking something, the symbolism of Brown Pride, something that really meant something, and something that we lived every day. We didn't have to tell everyone. They knew we were proud to be brown, right? And they turned it gang related, lightweight, but with a scary twist, so I just didn't like it. But the myth that the Paisas were always jumped on, that Norteños hated them, I think there was as much beef between the Paisas and the Norteños as there were the Southsiders in LA and the Paisas. And it's just like over the border in Mexico. You go there, you're Chicano, you're going to be labeled and looked at a certain type of way. And for those that say, nah, Charlie, it's not like that. Okay, you must have been around your familia and they made it so you didn't have to go through that. But I'm going to tell you right now, as a Chicano that went into Mexico, man, it was dangerous for me. They didn't care about me. They didn't care anything I had to say. I was American and I was disliked. So when I see all this shit going on, man, right now, and I see a lot of Chicanos, man, that are voicing their opinion, yeah, take them back, all that, it hurts my heart. I don't like it, but I see the reasoning behind it, because they felt like, well, that's what they do to us. But hey, two wrongs don't make a right. You got to recognize that. But as far as that myth that the Norteños have always went in on the Paisas, yeah, there's been selective politicking on Paisas. There's been situations where shit has went down, man. It's went down in my neighborhood, man. We had to get off where we were mad at. But as far as, Norteños constantly picking on Paisas and utilizing them and hating them. And, I hear a lot of that rhetoric that goes on, when it comes to the Southsiders, man, which I respect a lot of the upstaters. A lot of them spit the rhetoric that, hey, man, Norteños hated the Paisas. That's why they had to join the Southside. Nah, it had nothing to do like that. Nothing to do with that, man. It had to do more so with Norteños recognizing the Chicano part of it and running with that, and I always seen the Southsiders as recognizing more the Mexicano. I got a primo, he got Sureño Mexicano on his chest. It seemed like they always leaned more towards the Mexican flag, the Mexican, more of the Mexican history, the Mexican cultura when tattoos come, and Norteños leaned more towards Chicanismo, the Mexican American part, the Chicano part of it. That's just from my observation. That's what I've always seen. But as far as this myth that, oh, Nortenos hate Paisas and man, they were fucking them up all the time. Nah. But there was a lot of robberies going on. There was a lot of bullying. There was a lot of division. And there was a lot of shenanigans I didn't agree with. But as far as them fucking just beating them up because they were from Mexico, that's fake, man. That never happened. And that leads me to say this, man. I'm loving the solidarity. I'm loving all the Chicanos coming together in Northern California and Southern California in defense of the Paisas, man. You know, I know a lot of people say, well, this is what you voted for. This is fucking what you voted for too. You know, they're going to show you the bad. They're going to show you on media, in social media, the bad, the women crying, the kids being snatched out of people's arms, the people getting snatched up with tears in their eyes, but they're not going to show you, you know, how they help tremendously. And, you know, there's no doubt about it, man. If you're a Mexicano, if you're a raza, if you're anyone, man, you're working hard and you're trying to help your family, I agree with you and I respect it. And if you're doing crime and all that, man, hey, you're going to do your time just like I did. With that being said, there it is right there, a little bit of the history, Northern California and Paisas. Where do you think Norteños come from? When it's all said and done, and they need to understand that as well, you know, wouldn't be a Norteño or a Southsider if there wasn't a Mexican first. Bang, bang. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Heavy's going to be the head that wears the crown. I'm going to continue to strive for what I truly believe in. That's the betterment of my people. All my people. Shout out to the Paisas.